We are here with Miss V. She is the Student Affairs Vice President, correct?
Excellent. Look at
Awesome.
that.
I even got the title correct.
Well done.
So we're going to jump right in and get some advice from her because
Sure.
she is just a well of wisdom here on campus.
A font that just springs out the advice.
Exactly. Absolutely. Right. So what is your best piece of advice for incoming freshmen?
Oh, okay. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I think that's, if we don't expect you to know everything, we want to help you. We would much rather answer your question than have you wondering or feeling bad. And just remember, you're in the same boat as everyone else. You may think, if I don't know that, like that makes me stupid. No, it makes you normal. So ask questions and ask for help, and you will do so much better.
That's a good piece of advice.
Yes.
What exactly is your job here on campus? Sometimes it can be a little confusing.
Yeah. I don't actually have one. Don't tell anybody.
Okay.
I don't do anything. No.
I know that is not true. She is a very busy woman.
No. So technically I oversee both dorms. I'm over student affairs. And so I'm the one, so if you want to blame the handbook on me, I do I'm not the one that makes up the rules, but I help implement the handbook and make sure all the policies are in place. I also, this is, I think, a tiny part of my job, but it is part of my job. If there are any major discipline issues, they come up the chain to me. I also am over our food service department, so I help with the cafeteria. And honestly, my favorite part of my job is just talking to students. I love getting to walk alongside college students. I love watching God transform their lives, and that is the best thing in the world. So that's my favorite part.
You're a jack of all trades here. Okay, this one I think will be funny. What is your funniest thing that happened to you as a student? Like, what's one story that stands out?
So I didn't go to school here. I went to school at university. So I don't know if I'd have things that were like relatable. Probably a better would be a funnier memory, like early in my career here as a dean of women, because I was like in my 20s, very, very young person, and I was the dean of women before I did this job. I was the dean of women for 18 years. And so some of my funnier memories, students used to have their lights off at a certain time. Okay. And so I had to go around the dorm being like the lights police. It was terrible. I'm so glad we didn't do that anymore. But anyway, it was not fun. But those of you watching this, if your parents went to GBS like in the 90s or early 2000s or earlier, they'll know about this. But anyway, some of the things I would find when I would go to people's rooms, like just either they were hiding in the closet or trying to come up with excuses. I one time went into a room where a girl was like singing into a Pringles can because it makes your voice sound real cool. So I had so many funny things that I would find after lights out. Those are some of my favorite memories actually in the dorm.
Okay, that's hilarious.
They're good stuff.
What is your best piece of advice for dating couples?
Dating couples. Get to know each other before you start doing physical stuff.
Yes.
Okay? Build something that is strong, so I know when you start out dating, you think you're going to be together forever, and you might be. So if you are, build something that has a good foundation, and you do that by really truly getting to know each other, learning to communicate. And a lot of times you do that actually by being with groups of people. You need to spend some time together, but do a lot of stuff with groups, because seeing that person in a group situation, how do they treat other people? How do they treat older people? How do they treat children? How do they treat animals? That maybe sounds silly, but you're gonna learn so much about them. And so you wanna know all that stuff before you get really, really serious. And then what if you end up not staying together, but you've built something that can maintain a friendship so you don't have a lot of weird regrets. So I'm not a person that says, you can never touch elbows before marriage. whatever. You know what I mean? But I think just make sure you're building something strong and push the physical stuff off. And I just say that because I've watched it complicate relationships. I've watched it short circuit communication. And the healthiest couples I've seen here have been very serious about learning to communicate, having, and not just making the world get to two people. So make sure your world is bigger than just the two of you. You keep a big world, a lot of good friendships, you're going to really get to know each other, and you're going to build something that's really awesome.
That is very, very, very good advice. Okay, this is one that relates back to your nursing degree.
Okay.
How do I avoid being sick all the time at college?
It's a really good question because college is a germ factory.
Oh,
And
yes.
So you're living in really close quarters, you're breathing each other's air, it's really easy to get sick. So the best thing you can do is be proactive. I mean, yeah, if you get sick, you can take care of yourself, but this is stuff you know, this is stuff your mama told you. Actually get sleep. If you're not sleeping, and I know it's hard to sleep in college and you've got everything that's due the next day, I get that. But there have to be nights that you're getting decent sleep. Because if you're sleeping like 2 hours a night, that science says that specifically affects your immune system. So get sleep. Don't be pounding sugar and caffeine. Again, the favorite foods of college students, and I understand that, and I'm not, everything is fine. Moderation, have your sugar, have your caffeine.
Yep.
That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying, if you're just constantly, pounding Twinkies and drinking 10 cups of coffee a day, you're gonna get sick. So drink water, get sleep, eat relatively healthily, and you're probably not going to get sick at much. And hey, throw a multivitamin in there.
Yep.
You're going to be in good shape.
The reason I laughed in the middle of that was, oh, great, she's preaching at me. Probably should have ate that last
I may
night.
have been here a long time. And again, I want you to have fun in college. I'm not saying you can never eat sweet stuff, but you do, your body, what you put in, it just really affects what your immune system's going to do.
Yep, that's good advice.
So,
all right. Here's a very important question that I think a lot of students will have.
sure.
How do I accept the dress code rules, even if I don't agree with them?
It's a really good question. I'm actually really glad it was on the list. So when you come to GVS, we have a handbook. I mentioned that earlier. I want to make very, very clear that we do not believe that handbook is the handbook to heaven, okay? It's a handbook that there are several things. It comes from several places. Number one, we do try to operate, particularly our dress code, since that's what we're talking about, with Christian principles, what we believe the Bible says. However, all of our requirements are not biblical, and we're not going to say, we've never said that they are, okay? There are some things we do, some basic principles of modesty, we do because we believe they're biblical. Secondly, we are part of the greater conservative holiness movement as a Bible college. And so because of that, there are certain traditions within that movement that we embrace because we are part of that movement. There again, they may not all be spelled out in scripture, but that's just the part of the movement that we're from. And so there are going to be some in there because of that tradition. And thirdly, there's some of our rules that are just there because it makes sense in a college setting, okay? So there's some things we draw certain lines, not because we think they're right or wrong at all, it's just easier to enforce and easier to be consistent, maybe. And there may be certain things we're trying to teach through it, like what's appropriate dress for this situation or that situation, okay? So, number one, I do not expect our students to agree with everything in the handbook. It's not gonna happen. I doubt anyone on this campus would say they agree with every rule in the handbook, okay? That's not the point. Here's what we ask. Part of coming to any organization, wherever you work, they will likely have some sort of code they ask you to follow, whether it's a dress code or whatever, because of who they are and what they do and what they represent. And so because of who we are, we say, here's our dress code. This is what we ask you to do while you're here as a student. And we don't follow you home. But we ask that you to do this while you're here as a student. We don't ask you to, sign a life commitment to this. And here's what I will tell you as somebody who's worked here for 23 years and who also has purposefully put myself under this dress code, right?
Mhm.
And not because I see eye to eye with everything in it. I think there's a lot of good principles, but that's not why I do this. I do this because God's called me here.
Mhm.
And if God's called you here, and we live in an attitude of submission to where God's called me, and if you begin to practice that, because God's called me somewhere, whatever that means, I'm going to submit to that. I'm not going to fight it. It builds in. You're going to be able to enjoy things in a way that otherwise it's going to grate on you.
Mhm.
It's going to make you miserable. You're going to notice every little inconsistency because the dean staff can't be everywhere at once. And so somebody's going to be getting by with something.
Mhm.
And why aren't they seeing that? And you're going to see everything and it's going to grate on you and you're going to be miserable.
Mhm.
Okay? And the devil wants that. Okay?
Absolutely.
And so I am not saying you have to wear the GBS dress code to be a Christian.
Mhm.
It's not what we're saying at all. We're saying this is an institution. This is who we are. This is where we feel like for this institution, we need to draw the line.
Mhm.
And if you can view it like that and not like we're de-Christianizing everybody that doesn't wear the dress code like we do,
Mhm.
and see it as a uniform you need to put on for the time that you're here, I think God can teach you something through that. And he's taught me a lot about not having to have things my own way,
Mhm.
being in submission to something bigger than myself. And there's some really powerful lessons, I think, that you can learn through that. So I hope that you can look at it like that, not like we're trying to make everybody into little tin soldiers that
Mhm.
all look the same. That's not our point. But like I said, everywhere you go, they're going to ask something of you. And within those three things I talked about, this is the place that we've come to that we feel like best represents that. Now, we do make changes from time to time, but we do them carefully. We try to not make vast sweeping changes, and we make changes along with our board. Like we make sure that the board is okay with what we're doing. We don't just wildly make changes because we take that seriously. We want to think about the people we're ministering to. We don't ever want to be offensive.
Mhm.
And so we try to live carefully within those things. But again, if you can come and just see it for what it is, don't make it more than it is,
Mhm.
but see it for what it is. And if the Lord can help you say like, hey, I can do this for the time I'm here, and I'm not going to let it be bigger than it needs to be. And actually, you'll find out it's not that big of a deal.
Preach, Miss B.
That makes sense?
Yes, I
Okay.
totally could have used that advice last semester. Okay. So the most important question of this
Okay.
entire thing,
Okay.
dating freshman year, yes or no? I ask this of everyone and I get very different answers
Yeah.
every time.
So I used to feel a little bit stronger about this. I do kind of feel strong about it. Let me just say this. Let me say this. I'm careful about setting a timeline. Like, I don't know if this is a complete yes or no answer. Here's what I would say. Don't close your door too fast to a variety of friendships. Here's my big problem is when I see freshmen come in and within a couple of weeks, they only have eyes for each other. There's a really big world out there, and there's a lot of people on this campus that as you grow and change, you might have even better compatibility with. So don't really quickly say, oh, that's the one for me, and then just shut your life down to nothing else, okay? So by that, I'm not saying kind of a crude, like, well, keep your options open. I don't mean it like that. But you want to be able to experience college to the full. There's really a lot of great experiences you can have here. And when your world, like I talked about, even to dating couples in general, when your world gets really small, really fast, you're losing a lot of really great opportunities. So don't do that. Keep your world open. And again, I think it's wise not to date. I'm just saying, if I had to pick a wise choice, I would say don't date your freshman year. I just think it frees you up to be friends with a lot of people. It frees you up to observe people in a non-dating way that actually you're probably going to get to know them better. So that would be this is probably wisest. I've seen a few couples that have done it and done fine. So I don't feel like I can draw that line hard and fast, but I think the wisest one would be, it's okay to wait a little bit.
That's very good advice. Thank you so much, Miss B.
Yes,
Have a good
absolutely.
day.
Take care.